Lepa es una mujer, como veis, activista, feminista, lesbiana, activa contra la guerra, consejera feminista para mujeres con trauma de violencia masculina y lesbianas de Belgrado, en Serbia. Desde el comienzo de la guerra en Yugoslavia, en el 91, es activista en el grupo feminista contra la guerra y contra el antifascismo, y es cofinanciadora de las líneas de ayuda SOS para mujeres supervivientes de violencia masculina en el 1990, y trabajó en el Centro Autónomo de Mujeres en 1993, donde trabajó como coordinadora de equipo de asesoramiento y consejera para supervivientes de violencia sexual y violaciones de guerra hasta 2013. Tenemos aquí a una experta en agresiones sexuales y en acompañamiento en ese proceso. Por supuesto, Lepa es una figura en Belgrado, en su país, y aquí es también facilitadora de mujeres, grupos sobre violencia, es facilitadora, lo que llamamos aquí una promotora de grupos de mujeres, grupos supervivientes de la violencia contra la mujer, ¿no? O grupos sobre violencia contra la mujer. Lepa lleva una conferencia muy interesante vamos, no la tendremos que aprender, porque creo que nos dará argumentos a justicia diferentes de los del Código Penal y los del Código Civil, que son los que están utilizando hasta ahora. Los jueces están faltos de informes técnicos especializados, y quién más especialista que una mujer que está trabajando en el ámbito de las agresiones sexuales desde hace tanto tiempo. Os dejo con Lepa, espero que tengáis una buena audición. Lepa, muchas gracias por haber venido.
Gracias. Old-fashioned feminist way, we usually start something from ourselves. And so I was born in Yugoslavia, a country that was run by a communist party and was a socialist organization. And I sometimes say that I begin even in 1948, which was a moment where my mother and father met on the Communist Party meeting in the University of Belgrade. So that's where the love story started. And I came as a product of this love story that started on the Communist Party meeting in the university. So then my childhood was a very typical one in a socialist country. And the first thing that I learned to read and write was Muerte al fascismo, libertad para el pueblo, when I was 6 years old, or 5 and a half, and that's me. And even though I had a nice life, how to say, very soon I became very disobedient and became a feminist and a lesbian in 1980s. So we had, in 1980s, we had a feminist group which some of us founded, which was a discussion group. And then out of this feminist group, we decided in 1990 to, so this is our discussion group. And then we decided to have a concrete service for women who survive male violence. And we opened the SOS hotline, and that's where I started to work on the theme of counseling women who survive sexual violence and trauma of sexual violence. So before I continue on this theme, I want to say a few more things. One is that we were all surprised, and me too, that in 1991, the war started in my country. So this is some images. And the war was more or less from 91 to 99. And this is altogether 130 people were killed. And many were raped. And we organized as a feminist and a group, Women in Black Against War, in 91. and with the main idea to oppose the Serbian regime, because the war, among other things, started from my town, from the government from my town in Serbia. So we as a feminist felt that we have to organize against our own. So after that, we realized that there was a whole network of women in black against war in Europe. And one of the very active group was from Spain. So I want to say that this is our Women in Black in Belgrade. And because I come back here from where some of the feminists were coming to us every year, you have to understand, during the war years, I was in town where there was no war, but we were nonstop working with women war survivors, and we're supporting war wars in Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, and then in Kosovo, and I live in Serbia. But we had every year our feminist meetings against war, and many feminists came from this country. And here is some others, and some of them are sitting here. So I really, because now I'm first time back from where many feminists came who supported us during the war, I want to say thank you to all dear sisters from Spain for your solidarity and for your tender care, for your love that you came and gave us, because we really survived with your help. Thank you. Yes, now, can you stand up? There are two of them here. We want applause for them. Maria, Vita, 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 woo! Vita. Okay, thank you. After some time, we organized work with women raped in war. So I want to say a few things. What did we learn about the theme of women raped in war? Just a few things. One, that rape in war is a constituent of the continuum of male violence against women, first of all. So rape in war is a form of male violence, as well as a form of nationalist. Okay. So sometimes, because I want to say this, because sometimes nationalist theoreticians, they say the rape in war is a product of nationalism. But we feminists say rape in war is, first of all, a rape, as we know what is sexual violence, and is formed inside of the nationalist context. Second, it's very important what we learned is that women raped in war became the subject of the nationalist race to prove who of the nation is the bigger victim inside of the war. So there was a Croatian, Bosnian, and Serbian, and Kosovo, Albanian. So each one said, we have women raped in war, and tried to use them to prove how big victim they were during the wartime. It's very important because we feminists are the only ones who are criticizing this type of misuse of the women raped in war. On the other side, even on the other side, women raped in war are misused, but on the other side, the state has in all these 3 countries did something for women raped in war. So there was some benefits out of this as well. Let's say there is this contradictory theme, but there were some good consequences for women raped in war. Okay, so one is in Bosnia and Herzegovina at the very beginning, some of the Muslim leaders, they were supported by feminists, really, to do that, to say that women raped in war are not guilty because, as you know, there is blaming of the victims is the beginning of the sexual violence context in patriarchy. And so it was very important that leaders would say this so that women will not feel themselves guilty. Second, because there were, because the nation states, the new nation states after the war, maybe you don't know, but Yugoslavia in the war split in 7 different nation states. I mean, states which really had were nation states. Why they were nation? Because the constitution of each of these states, the first thing they say is that this country is made out of the citizens of a very particular nationality. You have in your country and in Italy and France constitution that says this is a constitution of citizens who live in particular country like Spain. In our countries, these are not citizens. These are Serb or Croat citizens or Albanian citizens, so it's a different constitution. And therefore, we call them nation states. So then the nation states, if, for example, in Kosovo, they said these women who were raped in war had to be victims so that we can form our new nation state, Kosovo. And they made up these monuments. Another consequence which was important is that feminists have lobbied in each country to have a special law that will be a law for civil victims of war, which would give to women raped in war monthly beneficiaries. It's very complicated because they have to prove they have been raped. There is a commission, and I'm not going to go into that. If anybody is interested, I can tell you more about that. But that's important because this is the first time in history that in the whole world that there are these kinds of laws in our region, and now it's been applied to some other countries of war. And also because of the rape in war in Europe, International Court in Den Haag has started first time in the history to punish men who have raped in war in Bosnia and in Rwanda. These are the first men who ever have been accused and punished for the rapes in war, even though we now know that in every war in the history, men were raping women. But only now this issue is very clear after the war in Balkans, and there cannot be any new war without us knowing that this is going to happen, unfortunately. Okay, so to summarize this, what I want to say is because of this nationalist context or interpretation of rape in war, we have a situation in which the society and the state believes women who are of their own nationality about their testimonies of rape. They believe their testimonies, more or less, which is very different than if we talk about non-war situation in which women who are raped, first of all, are not believed in every country. And there is a famous blaming the victim starting position. So we have this situation that because they are used as a for their nationalist reasons, they also believed, but only their own women. If you have a woman of different nationality who has been raped by their military, they are not believed. So it's very important that there is a social construction of believing the testimonies of women who have been raped, depending on the context. So really, what I want to say now for the next few minutes is something else. And it starts from this believing. I will leave the women raped in war. We can have more questions later. But I want to go into something completely different. And that is a new approach to working with women who survived trauma, any trauma, but especially sexual trauma, which is called trauma-informed approach. It has many different characteristics. What is trauma-informed approach? And it's used mainly in USA and Canada and in Australia, and now I'm trying to use it in my own context. And because I have no experience with this, I want to tell you a little bit about it, just brief. And trauma-informed approach, among other things, is based on new researches on neurobiology of trauma. Okay. So over the past 10 or 10 years, there has been a growing trend in research in the field of neurobiology of the brain. This research is examine how the brain reacts on our emotions. So how our emotions change the brain. That's one direction. That's what's researched. And the other direction is what we can do with our behavior to influence the brain, to change the brain, so that the brain can give us another emotion. I hope it's clear. So these changes in the brain are recorded by functional magnetic resonance. Maybe some of you know it. And because they can put it in different colors and they can see the different parts of the brains change with, for example, if we are in fear, there will be some parts of the brain and they will have a different colors when they make this magnetic resonance scanning. So because what many psychotherapists now who work with trauma have come together with the neuroscience, have come to this conclusion: if we want to understand emotion, we must understand brain as well, because it goes together. Because for us who work with trauma, it's very important to know at least basis, basis. So I will, and we have to study the brain. So I will tell you a few things about it, so you already will know. Oh, I've already said that. Okay. Okay, this is, now we go to the trauma-informed approach. Okay, it's also this, I didn't say this, many researchers are now showing that at least 80 to 90% of all population have at least 1 to 4 traumas in lifetime. Any trauma, traumatic event. So trauma is everywhere. We are all traumatized by something. And once we have trauma, our response to trauma is recorded in the brain and will repeat on every other traumatic moment. Okay. I said that, but it's good to go again. So now I will show you, I will tell you briefly So you will understand. From the neurobiological point of view, there is an agreement, it's an agreement, that there are 3 brains, so-called 3 brains. It's one guy from US, he said it 20 years ago. So we have oldest one, which is the reptilian brain. It regulates automatic functions. We don't need it for the moment. Then we have emotional brain in the limbic system, which came later on in the development of species, Darwinian development. It's after the reptilian brain. And the last one is a rational brain. Last one in development of the Darwinian development. Okay, so it's very important also that it's last, because those who are before, they are the ones who are, when something happens, it comes to the one who is, the brain who is earlier made is the one who is functioning more intensely. So now we want to understand very briefly, what happens in the rape situation from this point of view of the brain. First of all, in the situation of fear, the emotional brain takes over the functioning of the whole brain. What does it mean? It means that because of the fearfulness of situation, emotional brain function is to make the whole body survive that situation. So therefore, there is some parts, amygdala, and I will not go into these details. Emotional brain then fast connects to the hormonal system, and in most of the situation of the rape, it connects to the hormones which have a function as opiates. They completely freeze women. We feel like we don't really feel here. So it's brain can also in some situation, in different kinds of situation, connect to adrenaline, and then we are very fast, okay? But in the situation, or most of the situation of rape, now we enter rape, it connects to the other kinds of hormones, then also to the system, central nervous system that makes our heart slow and our muscles not, also not functioning. So what happens? Women says that they feel immobile, without voice, without moving, without any reaction. In the situation of rape, most of the time, women does everything what man tells her to do. He says, sit there, she sits there. He says, lay down, open your, she does everything. We have to understand that there is a reason also in the brain why she does that. It's not her decision. And so all these reactions from the emotional brain takes over, and therefore the consequence is that a rational brain is disconnected. I think I have that. Okay. So this, and to summarize, women cannot, in a situation of sexual violence and rape, women cannot choose how she reacts. It's not her conscious choice because the rational brain is off. And in fact, we know that very well when we trust women and we ask her how it was, because afterwards, usually women feel shame and guilt how she behaved, because she said, why did I do that? Why I didn't do this? And how come I could have done that? And why because after some days, after a week, her rational brain starts functioning a little bit, and so then she gets in the rational brain, there is our moral system, our ethical system, our experience, our logics, our intelligence is all in a rational brain. So when the rational brain starts opening up, then we say, oh, why did I do this? How come? And she feels, we who work with women survivors of sexual violence, we know that most of them, how could I have done this? But now we know why, among other things, because her rational brain was not functioning. Okay, so to show this, so women are immobile and they dissociate. I'm not going to explain what's dissociation, but dissociation is in most of the time a reaction of women. She cuts off the feeling of herself and of her body as if she watches herself from afar, from camera or from other parts. And that's a mechanism of defense of women who are in a rape situation, dissociation. Okay, now look at this. These are two scans of two people, wife and a husband, who were in the car accident at the same time. It was a very bad car accident. Cars in front, many people were also dead. And it was a highway, when many of cars are together in the accident, and their car has moved a couple of times, but they were fine by chance. And they went to the trauma center in US, and this is her a scan, and that's his. They didn't understand, the scientists at the beginning, why is such a big difference of two people who were at the same time at the same place. But this was many years ago, this example. So now we know, and we know why, because the women, after talking to women, she said she has had some situational violence in her childhood. So what does it mean? Every other time, and so she dissociated in this situation of the car accident, because when she was young, her brain has learned to dissociate in the situation of fear, because she already had those situations when she was young. I also want to point to maybe some of you who are going to work on sexual violence, on trauma in general. There is a very important book that is also translated in Spanish from this guy from US, Bessel van der Kolk, and he is, it's this title. He is a psychiatrist really, but he uses neurobiology also to understand. He's based on neurobiology to understand the traumas, all traumas, not only sexual violence. Okay. So I will just repeat once again. During sexual attack, women become speechless, mute, lose their mind, they freeze. They automatically do whatever is asked from them. And after that, when they are asked to talk about traumatic events, they talk disconnected, confused, changing their statements. This is a traumatic memory. That's the only way she can talk. That's very important, and now we can see that also. We understand, I'm not going into those details, the memory. There is traumatic memory. Memory of a traumatic event is recorded in the emotional brain, and our everyday memory is in the rational brain. So it has a different rules. So when we talk about what happened yesterday and before yesterday, we can talk this in a very nice sequence. We say, first I did this, and then I went there, and then I took a taxi, or then I took a tram, and then I went to my friends. And we can remember how what went first, what went second. Traumatic memory has a completely different rules because they are connected to the different emotional moments, and I'm not going to explain that. This is all also explained by neurobiology why, but it is recorded in emotional brain, and therefore it is fragmented, first of all. If you remember yourself, when we were in a very fearful situation, we remember something and something we don't remember. That's how traumatic memory works. That's the only way. And it's fragmented, and we remember something and something we don't remember. And so that's all very important. And why is that we are all feminists into this? We knew this because we asked women and they told us, and we believed them. We feminists working in feminist centers and rape crisis centers from 1970 was the first rape crisis center in US and UK. So, but the society, a patriarchal society, does not believe women. As you know, all laws in all the countries, including yours, are based on the premises that women has to resist, and that in the process of the legal process, this resistance has to be proved. Where are the bruises? Where did she scream? Did anybody hear her screaming? You know all of this. But now we see that this is all wrong. All these laws, including country where I live, including here, it's in the whole world. They are all wrong. Why? Because they were based on male patriarchal premises that women really like to be raped, because men like to rape. And therefore, they had to prove that women have really resisted in order to punish the guy who is a rapist. So we see that, there are many evidence about this, but for example, I have also see that Spanish law does not legally recognize rape unless there is a physical violence. That's what I read. It's the same thing in the country where I come from, in Serbia, and for example, we don't have, in Serbia, there is not such a big feminist movement like here. We have 7 million inhabitants, and last year, only 27 men have been punished for rape. It's disaster. It's nothing. It's a symbolical number. You cannot say it's even a percent of what? Why? Because 50% of the women who report never get to the end, because they drop down the line, and also because we know that the whole institution of jurisprudence, they all start with do not believing women's testimonies of rape. That's my theme today. How to fight this, one of the basic bases of patriarchy and misogyny. That's quintessence of misogyny is not believing that women's testimonies, when she says this and this happened to me, oh no, maybe you wanted it, maybe you want to. I mean, I don't even want to repeat what all different kinds, a million of different kinds of comments, patriarchal, misogynic comments. But you know, it's not. I also want to tell you, for example, there are new statistics in Great Britain because feminists in Great Britain have done a little bit so that more women report rape. But there are parts of Britain where only 7% of many women who have reported rape come to be punished. 7. Because they still, the institutions of justice still are on the same basis of blaming the victim and looking for the evidence, which now we see is wrong and not based on science. Not only then it's not based on a humanity value, trusting citizens and co-citizens, which trust is one of the value of society, democratic society we want to. So it's not only that it's not based on trust, it's not based on science. I'm very angry, I'm trying to be calm. So also, for you that are in health, there are many consequences on health on women who have been raped and have not believed from their closest people, family. This not believing, you know, when people around you don't believe you that what you say will happen, that affects emotionally, and therefore through the brain it affects our health. Because as we heard yesterday from our great feminist who got award yesterday, you know, our soul and our physical body, it's all the same. It's one system. Therefore, when we are not believed, we have different emotions that affect our brain, that affect our health. And therefore, there are different researches to show that rape culture, therefore, affects health and mental health of women. Only not believing. That's different than how rape affects our health. And at the end, I have a few things. What are we supposed to do as a health professionals? I think I have something here. Okay, that's rape culture. You know that. Okay, and this is what I said. Consequences on the health. There are different researches on that. So what are we supposed to do? First of all, unconditionally believe the testimony and experience. I think most of us who are working, we already know, but it's good to talk about it to everybody. Unconditionally trust the experience, the testimony of the experience. Okay, this is what we learned. We knew this because we trusted women, but now we know it also scientifically. Women in the situation of rape react automatically. That means it's not a rational choice, oh, I'm going to not speak, oh, I'm going to do this and that. Sometimes when women are older and they can maybe still have some contact with their rational brain, they can do some other things, but really it's very difficult. Most of the time it's not. Okay, I already said this, so it's important to know this. This is just a summary. Okay, this is another issue which for us who work in violence against women is very many times discussed. It's an issue of consent. Really, some of us feminists say only enthusiastically yes is yes. Because the situation of sex is so vague. Because we really think very often women would like that something nice happens in the sexual situation, but then it starts wrong. So she is then feels she has no right to say no because she has already started with her own will. And then it changes because he is doing what he wants and he does not really respond to her. That's most of the time with young, with the so-called rape in a date rape. But so we really try to be very clear to say, to teach women that only enthusiastically yes is yes, everything else is no. Because most of the time when women are silent, it's either she's not sure or it's no. So enthusiastically yes is yes. Second, about the consent. The researchers say, ask women, did you give consent to the sex you did not want? 43% of women said yes, so they gave consent to the sex they did not want. Do you understand how complicated that is? And we know that. I mean, that's part of our lives. Because of different situations, because of she cannot say no, because when she was young, she could not say no, so she can't say no, or because, in marriages, she thinks, okay, I will just close my eyes 5 minutes and he will be calmer, or I will be able to do my things later on, or because of money, or because of different, many reasons. So consent is a very complicated term, especially for legal. For us, it's fine who work with emotions, we understand it, but in a legal context, it's very complicated. Okay, and then, okay, that's very important. That's what we say, women. They have done the best they could in giving. And now, we've always said this, but now we know that brain tells us the same thing. This is scientifically proved. Not only that we trust women, we do trust women, we always trust women. We who work with women, unconditional trust her, and we tell her this. But now we say, you know what, this is also scientifically proved. And what else we can do? You have a great example of different protests, because there are not many protests in Europe and in the world related to sexual violence. So Spain is one of really, I'm following nonstop. All of you are out on the calle. And yes, so you're a really great example for us, for the whole world, because you have done with this, Hermana, yo sí te creo is so important. That's really, I took your slogan for the title of today's presentation, because that's really my political message today, how to prove scientifically this, what we feminists have been saying all along. And it's very important for us. We are professionals and activists, and I've seen yesterday great professional and feminist activists at the same time. So expand the culture of, and expand the culture of believing women. That's our task of professionals. To spread the culture that we believe women's experience, because in patriarchy women experience is not believed. You know so well, you know, we who work with women, a man, a husband who is violent for many years, he comes nicely dressed in a gray suit in a social work center, la la la. He says, no, I'm nice, and he's very charming, and all the women who work in the center says, oh, he's so nice. You know, maybe that woman, you know, and then the woman is not taking care of herself. She did not comb her hair. She's all, you know, like this. And then she talks one sentence and the third sentence and second sentence, and nothing is in a consistent line. And then the institution says, well, you know, we trust him more. That's classical everywhere in the world. So we have to say, no, we trust those who have survived trauma. That's our first, not the perpetrator, because we know for all other crimes, the perpetrator lies. That's the first thing they do. Sorry, in the courts of the war in Yugoslavia, out of 200, I don't know if the 3 or 4 has said, yes, I have done it. So, you know, like they don't say that, never. So why would this man who was raping or is a perpetrator in family violence, why would he say, yes, I have done it? Nobody does it. It's omerta. It's a famous mafia law, never to say. Okay, so we spread the culture of belief, and that's it.